In an apocalyptic world, a man finds himself miles away from his pregnant wife. Despite being in constant danger from both the apocalypse and corrupted human minds, will he be able to reunite with his growing family before the time runs out? Hello and welcome to our channel. Today we'll recap and review an American action thriller film, How It Ends. Let's check it out.
A young couple in Seattle, Will and Samantha, is currently expecting a baby boy and planning to get married. The only thing that Will needs to do is to ask Samantha's parents for permission to marry their daughter and maybe surprise them with the news that she's pregnant too. The only problem is, Samantha's father, Tom, dislikes Will and their relationship due to previous bad encounters. Despite that, Will still makes an effort and travels to Chicago to sincerely ask for Samantha's hand for marriage. Upon arriving, there's already tension in the air. It gets progressively worse during dinner when Will opens up the topic of him and Samantha buying a place together. He gets upset when Tom says that Will shouldn't make any claims about any financial assistance he and his wife Paula will be giving Samantha. Will takes this the wrong way and thinks that Tom is implying that he cannot support Samantha despite having a good-paying job. Paula tries to diffuse the tension growing between them, but Tom continues to insult Will's financial security and questions his intentions with Samantha. After being polite the whole night, Will loses his cool and answers back to Tom. Before this could even develop into an argument, Paula walks Will out of their place. The next day, Will oversleeps, causing him to miss the flight back home. Samantha confronts him about losing his temper and failing to ask her for her parents' permission to get married, which was his only reason for meeting them. Their talk is interrupted when an explosion is heard on Samantha's line. In a shaky voice, Samantha tells him that something's wrong before their call abruptly ends. Will heads to the airport only to see that all his flights back to Seattle are delayed. He also sees the news report of a seismic event taking place. He also gets worried about reports of power and telecommunications outages in the western part of the United States where Seattle is. The news channel suddenly goes off the air, leaving everyone with questions about the current situation.
Will goes to the road and pays a stranger to drive him back to the city. Since Samantha hasn't been answering calls, Will goes to her parents' house, who are now packing to evacuate.
Will initially plans to wait for the power to come back in the airport, but Tom explains that there's a bigger danger out there, one they are unaware of and they cannot waste any more time waiting. He also reveals his plans to drive to Seattle on his own while Paula stays at their son's house. After hearing this plan and remembering that Samantha, who is currently pregnant and alone, Will discusses to come with him and sets aside the ongoing bad blood between them. While on the road, the two notice the commotion outside as several people are evacuating the city and panic buying for supplies and gasoline. The two stop at a local gas station to get supplies and fuel up the car. While Will is all alone, a group of strangers attempts to rob them, but Tom scares them off with a gun. With another tense silence, the two continue to drive and finally reach the border where the soldiers are refusing to let them cross. Tom gives a heartfelt speech about rescuing his daughter, and this succeeds when they finally let them pass through. The night came, and while on the highway, they get stopped by a patrol car. Tom pulls over, however, he instantly realizes that the person is not a cop and is currently holding them at gunpoint. He reverses the car and urges Will to get back inside the car. As he drives off, he tries to instruct Will on how to load and shoot a gun. However, Will, who has not used a firearm before, is having a hard time. What makes it worse is that the person behind them keeps on ramming Tom's car. They manage to lose him, but they get into a car accident when Tom attempts to avoid the group of deer on the road. Their pursuer catches up on them and tries to threaten Will, but Tom manages to hit him in the head from behind, fully subduing him. However, the impact from the crash bruises his ribs. Will drives the patrol car so they can tow Tom's damaged car. Day 2 has come and they reach a trailer park where everyone is eyeing them suspiciously because of the shot-up patrol car that Will has been driving. There they meet Ricky, who immediately examines the damaged car. Will tries to hear some news from the radio, but only heard screams of help as Tom watches agitated birds displaying erratic behavior in the sky. Ricky informs them that their car will hold up for a little while, but might stop again in the middle of the road. After hearing this, Tom offers her money to sell them the SUV in her garage and join them on the road. Ricky initially refuses, but eventually agrees when Tom gives a heartfelt speech and offers her $2,000 for her time.
Tom and his heartfelt speech are honestly so compelling, which says a lot about his sincerity. Maybe he can ditch retirement and be a motivational speaker, because he'd be making a fortune when he can convince two people in 24 hours. If only he can do something about his temper then,
After minor repairs, the three of them geared up and hit the road. The night has come again, and since it's dark, Will instructs Tom to follow another car so they could use their taillight as their guide. Will gets distracted when Ricky tells him about her compass, whose needle has been spinning like crazy, and didn't realize that another car is driving towards them on their side of the road. The car crashes with them and gets overturned on the side of the road. The three of them check if there are any survivors and found that the guy is in critical condition. Seeing that he will not survive the drive to the hospital, Tom urges Will to drive off, leaving the survivor to die despite Ricky's objection. The other car that was also involved in the car crash witnessed this and tries to run after them. Ricky expresses her dismay about leaving the survivor in the ditch, but Tom cuts her off because to him, reaching Seattle is his utmost priority. Once they realize they've lost them, they stop at the roadside to fuel the car. Ricky comes out to join Will, and together they look at the clouds that both of them have never seen before. When lightning struck a nearby tower, the two hurriedly went inside the car and Tom immediately drives. In a matter of seconds, they are already in the middle of a crazy storm. They parked under the bridge to seek shelter and waited for the storm to end. The next day, Will is now the one driving, and they immediately notice a car that was struck by the lightning. After passing a tower, they briefly get a signal on the radio and heard that there is still a worldwide power and telecommunications outage. The people on the radio are also theorizing who could be the culprit behind this attack. Will decides to go on a detour to visit one of his friends in a nearby town. Since they look suspicious, the sheriff of the town had them escorted to his friend's house.
Jeez. First Tom's car, then this SUV. When will their cars get a rest and have at least one peaceful drive without crashing or getting shot at?
While staying at their friend's house, Ricky inspects the SUV while Will discovers that his friend's wife, Meg, is left all alone in the house. She's having a complete breakdown as she thinks her husband is already gone. After seeing this state, all I could think about is if Samantha is feeling the same way. After resupplying, the trio hits the road. On their way, they see a military plane that crashed to the ground. They come across an abandoned water park and Ricky immediately jumps in for a swim. However, she hurriedly went out of the water after realizing how hot it was, which makes the two men laugh.
This is probably the first time that the three of them are genuinely enjoying each other's company. Hopefully this lasts, since they still have a lot of miles ahead of them.
The three of them are scattered around to scour the area for supplies. At this point, Tom's bruised ribs and his overall condition are deteriorating, but refuses to let his guard down. After passing a signal tower, Samantha's 2-day-old voicemails gets through, but it was immediately cut off due to signal interference. At the same time, they see countless people evacuating a town that is burning down to the ground. Since the road is the only way over the pass, Will continues to drive regardless of the risk.
Well, I guess their car will never have a rest from driving into danger.
In the middle of the road, an old woman stops them for help with her flat tire, not knowing that once again, this is an ambush. Men with rifles hold them at gunpoint while demanding their gas. Will tries to intervene but gets overpowered, so Ricky has no other choice but to fill up their cars and surrender their supply. After the thugs have left, they immediately run after them to retrieve the gas. Since Tom's condition has worsened, Will gives Ricky the gun, which he uses to shoot the tires. This causes the car to overturn and for the gas to leak. They narrowly escape the explosion, which instantly ends the lives of the thugs. Even if they survived, Ricky demands Will to pull over as she thinks she's responsible for their deaths. While the two men are assuring her that she saved their life, she walks away from them after expressing her regrets about joining them. Thinking that all she needs is space, they rest and spend the night. However, Will discovers that she ran off on her own and took all her stuff. With this, the two had no other choice but to continue with their journey. While Will is retrieving gas from a nearby crash, Tom's lungs collapsed on him. He instructs Will to perform emergency first aid, which stabilizes his condition in the meantime. Since Tom's condition continues to deteriorate, the two let go of their pride and bad impressions of each other and start to talk casually without biting each other's head off. Tom finally gives his blessing and asks Will to promise him that he'll always keep Samantha safe. Their talk is interrupted when a group of armed men stops them on a bridge. Realizing that they're in danger, Will reverses his car to gain momentum so he could run past their barricade. He succeeds with Tom's help, who guns down the men who are pursuing them. However, this eventually costs him his life. As if his situation couldn't get any worse, their car stops in the middle of nowhere. Since Ricky isn't there to fix it, he lights up the car with Tom inside as his way of sending him off. He continues his journey by foot, and when he tries to hitchhike, a man with a gun stops by to offer him a ride. While on the road, Will discovers that Canada is the current evacuation place as they have more chances of survival up there. Upon seeing that they're in his father's town, he guides the family to his house so they could stock up. Upon realizing that they have evacuated and the place is well stocked and has electricity, Will offers an exchange. They could stay in his father's house in exchange for the man's car. Since the circumstances are more favorable to him, the man agrees and Will immediately hits the road. Since ash particles are falling from the sky, Will gets a gas mask and finally reaches their apartment. Inside the tattered apartment, he sees a message from Samantha giving him an address where she can find him. After seeing this, he immediately drives to this place, but Jeremiah, their neighbor, almost shoots him dead. Luckily, Samantha was there just in time to stop him, and the two reunite after 5 long days. Later that night, he reveals to Samantha what happened to Tom and that he wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for him. He promises her that he will never leave her again and finally sleeps. His rest was interrupted and realizes that Samantha is no longer beside him. He comes outside and sees Samantha and Jeremiah talking by the bonfire. Here we can see that Jeremiah's gaze lingers as if he's jealous. Jeremiah then starts to assert all his conspiracy theories about a nuclear bomb going off and realizing a virus which Will couldn't believe. As the night goes deeper, Will sees Jeremiah snooping around his truck, so he confronts him the next morning. Jeremiah shares that he saw 2 kids and even leads Will into the woods to show him. However, this happens to be another trap once again. While they're deep in the woods, Jeremiah takes out a gun and tells Will that Samantha wants to stay with him. All of a sudden, Jeremiah turns to shoot him, but Will, after all the betrayal he's experienced, was alert and shot him first. He immediately fetches Samantha and drives on his truck while a huge explosion cloud is slowly closing in. He assures Samantha that everything is going to be alright as he continues to drive. Just like the cause of this end of the world, their fate remains unknown.
This probably looks like just another apocalypse film, but you might want to give it just another chance as it covers the corruption of human minds during their desperation for survival. This movie won't just put you on the edge of your seat, but it'll also make you think of the question, if the world is ending and survival becomes a luxury that not everyone can afford, what kind of person will I become? Please subscribe to our channel to be notified when we upload, and don't forget to suggest movies you want us to recap in the future in the comments down below.